In this video, I'm gonna explain about my final custom project, which is the gaming hub, including 10 separate files of 10 2D games from Ruby. Uh, there are some similarities between those game logic, such as movement or collision detections, stage and time management that I gonna explain once because I don't wanna make the videos too long. But however, there are some specific complexities between in some particular game, such as the recursion and the maze, the load and create playlists in the music players, the gauss logical movement in the Pac-Man game, or the valid move in the chess games that I will explain clearly. Besides the general logics in all of them. Talking about the first game, which is the shooters, we will have ability to move the players and then shooting monsters. And when the monsters is when we take enough damage from the monster, we will lose. And we will have a survival times and if we wanna retries to play the games. Talking about the code, uh, I created classes for different objects appearing in the screens. Each class will have different attributes and methods that will change their attributes. For the player class, we can see some simple attributes such as locations, speed, health, variable for special abilities, etc. The movement is changed based on the keyboard of D, A, W, and S. The directions of the players is changed based on the mouse, the directions of the mouse of players, and the bonus is created when we click the left mouse, and changing the attributes when we activate the special abilities. Create a small amount of immortal time when player took the damage, and this one just drawing the players. For the boneless, we will have when we click the left mouse, it will be created and it will move consecutively until it off the screens, and it would be deleted from the boneless list. The same with the monster boneless, they are the same. For the monsters, there will be two types of them, normal and shooters. Both of them will move toward players and, uh, and they will receive damage when they are touched. If they are shooter, they will have ability to shoot, creating the monster bullet class. It will be the same with the player bullets, but different damage, speed, and image. For the game windows, we're gonna make those class in use, create a list of spawn objects. This one is spawns run. This one is spawn randomly list the monsters, the monster bullet and monster bullet methods. We're gonna reject, delete them from the list, and we're gonna check collisions for each bullet touch based on the distance variables from the location in pixels. This one is reset everything when we fails or we wanna play against, and this one are just drawing things. For the second game, which is the Space Invaders, uh, it's about we can use amount to controlling the players and shooting other enemies, which is other planets, and we can have the health pickup here. Clicking the space button will activate the special abilities. This one also apply in the shooter game before, but I forgot to activate in the demo one. And when our health decrease to 0, we're gonna see our score here, and we have to end the games. Talking about the core of the games, uh, this one is generally similar to the previous one, so I don't want to talk about much about the initiate, uh, create some attributes for the games. For the player ones, for the player class, there are three simple attributes. There are these simple attributes, uh, like the previous ones. The functions for activate the special abilities, which change the shooting intervals, meaning the numbers and the frequencies of bonus. Some functions for fluctuating the health. Uh, for the bullet, it will like the bullet that we have talked before, but with this collisions detections functions, which is the sign of the bullet for four directions. If four if four sides of the boneless is have touched the enemies, and if four of them are recognized as collided, we will activate the damage from these functions here. This one is in the class, and when if any collision between the objects between the classes, it will be activated. For the enemies, I have changed a little bit about the speed. Uh, it will randomly change, and for if it's collide with the screens, we want to make sure that it's not off the screens. Finally, for the health pickup, also the collision functions, and it will change, and this one will change in which is increase the player's health, which is the snack one. This one is quite simple, and we maybe all know that when we touch the apple, we can increase outside, and when we touch ourselves, the game is over. Press R to restart. Talking about the code, because even though it's quite simple, because it's there only one class needed, is the window one. Because the snake moves consecutively, and this morning the apple is quite easy, so I don't think that I gonna create any other class. In the button down functions, press R to restart. It will initialize again any needed variables. The snake initially is this. As you can see, the snake is a like many lists. The snake contains many lists, and this one is the locations of each part of the snake on the areas based on the X and the Y pixels locations. When we press the any keyboard WSAD, it will change the directions, and we assign the values to the direction variable based on this button, and from that we gonna take the head, change the directions of the head based on the elements in the head variable. We're gonna duplicate it every single 0.2 seconds, then check the directions to change the location of the head here. This one is to assure that the snake is not, when the snake off screen, it appear again in another size. This when we pick up the apple, the score increase, and we're gonna spot the apple again. um, if the snake touch anything in his body, tails, um, the game is over. However, the directions of variables is not only used for the head. Obviously, we have to change the angles, the directions of the bodies, and that leads to the angles one here. This variables is one of the most complicated logical algorithm in the whole gaming hub, I think so. To explain, I said before, the snack is different list, and each list has two elements for location X and Y. This angles is the result. When we take the locations, we're gonna use the minus vector calculation in mathematics, and we use the update consecutively the location of that body's part to the head of the snakes, and we use to calculate the vectors, and it's assigned to dx and dy variables, and these two are forced in any case. These two are forced to become 0, 1, or minus 1s, And from that, we're gonna change the angle of the snake tails and snake hair body images. For the fifth game, which is the Flappy Birds, we all get used to this game before. It's about when we're clicking the space keyboard, the bird is flying, and the pie is generated randomly until we touch the pie and the game is over. So talking about the chords of these games, uh, obviously when the button now is quite easy when we're clotting the space, and uh, it will change on base the location of the bird is changed on the flap strings. So the concept of this game is that the bird has unchanged x locations. We only change y location for it to fly up and down, and the gravities here will make the bird move down to the bottom, form continually, and the flap strings when we click the space button will make the bird fly up again. So the thing that is really changed their x locations is the pi in the pi list here. So we're gonna create the pi consecutively in the update functions. This is the functions for creating the pi based on the time intervals. Like in a specific amount of time, each pi is created with the random height from the bottoms and the tops with the between it them will have a fine gap for the bird to pass through. Then we each part when the pie is off the screen into the left, we're gonna remove them from the pie list. This one is create the variable for the locations of the bird for the top pie and the bottom of the pie. Then use the collide functions here to check whether they are collide or not. If they collide, the game is over. Moreover, if the bird is flying too high to the height of the screens or it float to the bottom of the screen, the game is over. And if they pass the pies in the locations of a quarter of the screens, the score will be increased. The next game is Brick Breakers. It's about using the keyboard left and right to move the battles and touch the bones. More is quite popular for us. And when the pawn is thrown over the areas, we're gonna see our scores and the game is over. Talking about the chords of these games, we can see that there are three object recognizers. Brick, the pedal, and the bone. So three classes are needed. For the brick, beside locations and size, we're gonna have the type, and there are three types of them. And these one are generated randomly when we create the brick. When it is hit, we're gonna change the hit needed levels and the color of the bones. And when this attributes increase to 0, we're gonna proc it. It means that we delete it from the brick list. For the paddle for the paddle class, we just simply change the x locations to its move to the left and the right. For the bone will move consecutively until it touches the wall, the pedals, or the brick. And this one is the check collisions method that I talked before. For the main function is to create those classes, make them move to create the brick, and check if it is collide. Then we're gonna increase the score if the brick is broken, and if brick is broken, we're gonna increase scores. Then reject them from the list. And when the bone is thrown out of the areas or the brick is empty, the game is over. This one just about drawings those classes. In the sixth games, which is the chess games, this is quite popular one and also the most interesting one. Uh, every players that will one by one have their move, and the current players is announced here. We cannot move without it. And if the white any players can kill the other kings, the game is over and the winner will be announced. So for the course of this ones, which is the most interesting ones in the home gaming hub, I gonna go through some drawing size. It's about some load piece, load the images, set up the board by some locations of each drones, each pawn rook in the board. Then we're gonna throw them in the 8 multiplied by 8 board and put the piece in. We're gonna throw the status of the players, and if the game is over, we're gonna announce the winners. And functions for the game players, we check here whether the kings and the white, the black or the white kings is killed. It's become to the nil one. Okay, so they are, and if the winners, there will be sounds announced here. Notify sounds. There are three sounds when we move, when we captures the enemy's piece, or when we wins. And this is the only game that I add some um, sounds files into it. Okay, now I gonna go into the valid move, which is the main logic for these games. This happens when when our button is up and down. It means that I drag into the I drag the mouse into the locations, then I button up. When the button down, it will check whether the location is valid or not. It means that it is in the board or out the board, and then we have able to drag, and when the button up, it will check whether the it will check whether it will call the valid move functions, and the valid move functions will return false if it is the same locations. Yeah, and if it's the same colors, it will also return false. For the if those conditions is become true, we're gonna move next to the valid move for each piece, and we're gonna initialize the piece and targets. It means the start and the end locations of the piece that we choose. For the pawn ones, I'm gonna summarize these ones. We just need to define the logics of move vertically, horizontally, and diagonally. And when we understand the move of that, we just apply the conditions for every single ones. For examples, because the pawn ones, it will have black and white, so we set the locations from up to down and down to up, and it can move forward when the location is stressed vertically, or it can move double up when it is in the fourth line. It is in the initial locations, and there's no board, no any other piece block it. And when it captures, if there is a board in the diagonal locations, it can move one locations forward diagonally. For example, like this. Yeah, and it can captures. Okay. For the rook, it can move vertically and horizontally under the conditions. That is, we use the back block, mean that is between the start and the end uh, there is no block piece, and we can allow that move. The same to the bishops, and the kings is quite easy for that. For the knights, there's two conditions basing on the diagonal move and the vertical or horizontal ones. If we move for set the conditions of 2 and 1 or 1 and 2s, and for the queen one we're gonna set it has the combinations of the rook and the bishops. For the next game, which is the Pac-Man games, we will have a players, and then we can move to hit the score in four directions, and we have to avoid the ghost. Or if we touch the god, the game is over, and we have to start again. The score is recorded here. So I'm gonna talk about the chord of these ones. First one, we create the maze in this big arrays containing a lot of arrays with 0 and 1s, many lines, and if then we draw as a point if it is 0, and as a block if it is 1s. There is 4 goals needed in this one, and if the dots a pickup, we gonna this one is create the dots, and the players can move in four directions. If the dot is a big cup, we're gonna increase the score and remove the dots from the dot list. If the ghost touch players, the game is over, and if the dots empties, the game is we're gonna win and return the uh, return the winnings announcements. And for the ghosts, we're gonna call the update god functions because the gods really complicated in these games. Uh, the function is just change this one. It just change the direction of the gods if it touch the walls. It's quite simple. When check the collision of the location of the goals and the goal of the walls. However, it will create a bug when the goals touch a location where two sides or three sides are blocked. Then the goals stay there forever. Then we need to add these functions if the move of the goals is not is empty, is null. Then it means that the ghost is stopped. Then we have to do the loop, and this one it change the directions in several times. It will call the choose valid directions function here. When it will return the directions of the needed ghost. It will check for size and change the available movement for the ghost to up, down, left, and right. And for when the loop ends, it means that there is no more attempts. There's no no import, no available locations for the ghost to move. Then the ghost have to move for the opposite side. It means move turn around. Because this one is just block. It avoids the ghost to move to the opposite side. But if there's no more options, we have to do that. And this one is make the ghost to move dynamically in the centers because there's also another bug when the ghost just move in the center of the areas. So we use that to change the directions. Okay, now moving on to the next games. This one is called the target shootings. It's quite simple, so I'm gonna go through it quickly. There are three there are three types, three levels of easy, medium, and hard, and each one will have the each amount of target, and it's about just like the aiming left when we moving on the mouse and click, and then the target will appear consecutively. We got the scores. If you want to exit, just click here, and there are only three targets available on this one. Okay, so I'm gonna explain about the score, about the code of it. The target will have different size and appearing time for each levels, which is applied to the spawn target, and it will go to the list of target and it spawn randomly in the screens. This one is drawing the colors of the circles, and it like the smaller the circle is, the higher score we can get. We set up here in his functions. This one is just about the button, and when we click on the button it will navigate to the playing areas which different levels. This one is start the game when we reset initialize everything's, um, and we're gonna spawn the target here. We're gonna spawn the target from this, and when clicking the left button it will check whether we target right, whether and which pawn, how many pawn we can get, or the target will disappears. Okay, now we're gonna moving on to the last second ones, which is in the portfolio task, the music player ones. At here we can see that there are several albums that I added manually in the text file, and when we click on the album we can play the songs. There will be also the stops and play button, the pass through or play again. We can also change the volume here. uh, this one is the basic one, and I update the also filters by year, filter by genres, and create playlists. We can create selecting all the songs available, and then we will add it into the current playlist. We can see it. Okay, and now we can click on to play in the playlist, and we can move on to the next song here. Okay, that's about the demo of the music players, and I'm gonna talk about the code. The code is generally like the versions of those tasks in the portfolios. It's about reading charts, read tracks, every single one, read the albums, and load the album from the specific locations is in the here. So we're gonna read all of these and redirect to, we can direct to the sounds, the image of the singers. Okay, besides that, they're just about drawing and changing color for the albums, for about listing out things. So we have a lot of, we initialize a lot of variable to support them. To support some features such as create playlists, sorting genre, years, paginations. The update functions here is mostly about the hover button. When it updates consecutively when our mouse is hover on the button to change the colors that we need. Uh, and this one is about, let me see, this one is about the drawing is just like that. It's draw, list out things, drawing everything. It's mostly is about the general draw of goals, listing out some functions. And I'm gonna talk about this one is about we draw the other page for future years, draw another page for future genre. This one is about drawings and paginations in that specific page, and this one is for drawing the create playlist page, and this one is just draw button, nothing's. And when the button down, we can see that there's a lot of things. For example, in the future years we're gonna have an like a logics for sorting by years, so as to sorting by genres and paginations here in those genre filtering page. This one is about listing out the so create playlist, and so playlist is listing out listing out all the songs that we create before. And the songs, the functions in the go source is the songs. The song one, this one is the specific function in GoSo to play a song, and from this, the song in playlist will play one by one. For the other, just about setting the location for clicking buttons, then activate the necessary functions. For the final game, which is the maze, this one is mostly like the recursion task in the portfolio. The in week 9 maybe we click the left to create the path. Then when we click place, we can use, I just added a character to move around, and the solutions will take the location of this line to find the needed part. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the code. This one, the code is likely to the main task in the portfolio, but I just added some small stuff such as the player to move around only, um, and some buttons such as the play and solution buttons, and some images for the maze to become colorful. Therefore, I will just explain again about the recursions logics to finding the path, because it's the main logic for this maze. We can see that this one is about checking whether the current cells, it means this where we are currently stays, is in the maze or not. If not, we return the news. If yes, we're gonna take the location of the cells, and if the cell is visited or not, or it is not vacant, it means that it is not the path that we created. We will return nil again. Um, if two conditions here are available, then we will mark it as visited. Then we have a list, an array of 4 directions. Then we apply the recursion here. We will check 4 directions of the current square, whether it exists and it is vacant and it is not visited yet. If 3 of these are return truth, we're gonna count the search against, which is the recursion ones, and then we will add it into the result. And the recursion is end under the condition that we reach the final columns. From that, we can draw some, change some. We change the status of the square to vacant, on bad, or anomalies, and this one is just about drawing.